Welcome to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, a podcast for Danville, Kentucky and beyond. Conversations with friends, and you get to listen. Brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. 80% Danville-centric, 20% eccentric.
Good morning, Danville, Kentucky. You are listening to Danville, Kentucky's favorite podcast, Man About Danville. I am Logan H. Gurman, the man about Danville himself. Thanks so much for joining me, whether you are in Danville itself, Perryville, Junction City, Parksville, Forkland, Moreland, Stanford, Lancaster, Nicholasville, Lexington, Louisville, Bowling Green, Chicago, New York City, Atlanta, Boca Raton, Tampa, Little Rock, Houston, Dallas, or out on the West Coast, or even one of my international listeners. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with me. I certainly appreciate it. If you like the podcast, check me out on social media. I've got a Facebook page. I'm on Instagram as Man About Danville. I'm on X at Man Danville. There's a YouTube channel associated. Of course, there's a website, manaboutdanville.com, or you can email me, manaboutdanville@gmail.com. Consider giving the show a review, a rating, or a thumbs up or whatever. I appreciate all that. And think about sharing it with friends and family, especially those that used to live in Danville that don't have that privilege anymore. All right, today I'm joined by Dr. John Wilson, former retired professor of mathematics from Centre College.
Well, not quite retired yet.
Okay.
I'm finishing up this spring.
So soon to be retired.
Soon to be.
The end is in sight. Are you excited about that prospect?
Yes, I'm excited about a change of life. It feels like when I was graduating from, when I was getting my graduate degree, or even when I was graduating from college, I feel like I'm ready to enter a new phase of life. Excited.
So I happen to notice that your house that you share with your wife, Brenda Wilson, just hit the market. Mark Dexter has that for sale.
He does.
He's a pillar of the real estate community here.
Absolutely.
Your house hit the market, and I thought, I better get on with this and get you while you're still here. Are you downsizing here in town, or are you moving on to different pastures?
Well, it's hard to believe, and if you had asked me this question last year, I would have a totally different answer for this. All plans are subject to change. But we are planning to move to Brooklyn, New York.
Of course you are. What retiree doesn't move to Brooklyn, New York?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we're taking the place of some of those people in Brooklyn who are retiring elsewhere. But the fact is that we have a daughter, son-in-law, and new granddaughter in Brooklyn, and we're going to go and make a good relationship with our granddaughter. She's 6 months old. Brenda is full-time nanny right now. A granny nanny, yeah. So
that's outstanding. That'll be wonderful to be. I'm fortunate enough to be close to my parents, and it's so nice to have my kids in proximity to them, and there's just a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. So we're very much looking forward to doing that.
And you were a professor of mathematics at Centre.
Yes.
For how long?
Came here in January of 1985, so just about finishing up 40 years.
Golly.
It's been nice. There's been a lot of changes at Centre in 40 years, and I've been happy to be part of them.
Where did you study?
As an undergraduate, I was at Sewanee, University of the South in Tennessee, and then went to graduate school right after that at UNC Chapel Hill. Tar Heels.
And did you come here directly after that, or was there a stop or two along the way?
Came here directly after that. Everything has been very smooth for me all along the way.
The rest, as they say, was history. 40 years right after your PhD, and here you are.
Right. I wouldn't have been able to fit in 40 years at Centre without coming straight. I started, I think I was still just 27. So,
golly,
I was young. Back in those days, I decided I better grow a mustache because they were very confused, thinking that I was a student there. So I remember one time after our first graduation, the graduation speaker was walking in front of Brenda and me as we left, and we caught up to him. He was a little slower he was probably my age at my age now. But we caught up to him and we passed him, and I was wearing my academic regalia, and he said, so where are you going to be next year, young man? and I said, well, I'm going to be teaching math here at Center College. And I know he thought I was a graduate, but we set him straight.
I'm going to be in my office 2 doors down from yours. Right. So you're going to leave a hole in the tennis community here in town. Do you have a doubles partner lined up in New York City?
Not yet. But last time I was visiting there, which was between center term and spring term here in January, I did locate some courts. So I figure that I will find some people. There are people who play.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. Now, do you play pickleball at all or strictly tennis?
I've played pickleball a few times, but I'm more a tennis player than pickleball. But things change,
No, I'm getting a lot of pressure on me to go play, and what I need is another sport where I can be beat by my wife. She's better at CrossFit, better at tennis. So if we add pickleball to the mix,
so is your pressure from Leela about?
Well, Leela and Piers. It seems like my son even plays. It's sweeping the nation. As
yes, it is. It is.
So, one, what sort of classes did you teach at Center? And two, I think the Center term is such a neat concept. Did you teach any fun classes during that term?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this book grew out of a class that I taught. I taught a course. So at Center, pretty much everybody teaches all of the lower level courses. Almost every term I'm teaching a calculus course of some form, Calculus 1 or Calculus 2 or Calculus 3 or something like that, and then some upper level course. And I haven't done much with probability and statistics courses. That's not really what I'm interested in. But many of the other courses I've taught and enjoy probably the most the upper level sort of abstract algebra courses and discrete math kind of classes.
The really abstract stuff.
They would be in the category of pure math as opposed to applied math. I'm a pure mathematician that's there.
I'm not even sure. Can you define? I can't define that. What exactly does that mean?
So the courses that I teach wouldn't necessarily be applicable like in straight off in some job application. The thinking that the students are trained to do with in a pure math class, the critical thinking and such as that, is very valuable, and plenty of employers would like to have people who think clearly like mathematicians.
Well, that's why I was an English major.
well, it's very interesting when you're when I go to a party and I'm meeting new people or something like that, and they'll ask, "What do you do?" And I say, "Oh yeah, I'm a math professor." Or when I was in college, "Oh, I'm a math major," or something. They always think, "Oh," the reaction is, "Oh, that was my worst course," or "I really liked math until we got to
until we got to
this level," or something like that. And so. Yeah.
Did you have an opportunity to ever teach abroad?
I'm sure I could have done that. I didn't do it.
You spent most of your time here.
I did not. I was not. I was not the one to do that.
You must have enjoyed Danville if you lived here for 40 years.
Yes. When we moved to Danville, we came from North Carolina, and both of our families, Brenda and I, grew up in the same county. And when we moved to Kentucky, we didn't really know anybody. There wasn't any connection. But Danville's the right-sized town for us. We grew up in a very, very rural area of western North Carolina that the county, when we were growing up there, did not have a red, yellow, green traffic light in it. No intersections merited that kind of control in my county when I was growing up. And so Danville was a good size. It was a little small. It was smaller than Chapel Hill, but it was a good level for us.
Felt like a big city compared to the one stoplight or no stoplight town.
Yes, it felt like plenty much like a big city, but also the people were. It was easy to get to know folks here. We started off at Trinity at the Episcopal Church there, got to know people there, and of course through the center faculty, the center community, we got to know people. But one of the most surprising things I remember probably about a month after we had been here, we were in the line at the salad bar at the Western Steer, I think, Western Sizzlin' or Western Steer out.
I remember it well.
Out there where next to the Walmart where we have the Drakes now. And we were in the salad bar line, and across from us, this lady said, "Oh, you're the Wilsons, aren't you?" And we didn't have any idea who this was. And she said, we said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, I'm the lady at the drive-through window at the Citizens Bank. It was Citizens Bank then, and I just wanted to welcome you to Danville."
I have a theory that Danville is used to welcoming new people to town because of the college and because of the hospital. Those two institutions have a constant influx of usually pretty bright, pretty engaging, pretty good citizens just constantly coming in, and Danville has enough good sense to recognize it and welcome them.
Yeah.
There are also two questions we always ask a new Danvillian. Whose house did you buy? And where's your church home? Those are get ready for when you move to Danville. Get ready for those two questions.
Right. Well, I believe she did. I believe she did ask what church were we going to. We were settled into the lifetime Episcopalians, and so we had settled into the Trinity.
Neil and Jenny Eklund, another math professor there.
Yes,
they were big. Longtime members of Trinity Episcopal.
Yes, Neil's still there, and as a matter of fact, Neil Eklund and J.P. Brantley were both there. J.P. was a music professor at Center at that time, and they helped move me in to our apartment. The first apartment, the first place we lived when we came here for about 3 months, we lived in the top floor of that apartment building on the corner of 4th and Walnut. Mm-hmm. The one that, I guess it used to be an old church a long time ago. They had just remodeled it or something.
Is it McDowell Manor?
McDowell Manor. Yep. Yeah. So we were first ones in a remodeled apartment there, and JP and Neil helped me climb up the stairs with all our small truckload of worldly possessions at the time.
The Eklund twins, Scott and Andy, were my age. We graduated. Oh, okay. We all graduated together. Right. Here in this season of graduation, as we think about those things.
Yeah.
What does Brenda do?
Brenda was a pharmacist.
Okay.
And she is retired. She retired in August. But when we came for my interview, Center was very good. Brenda came with me. That's not usually the way the interviews are for faculty positions at Center, but at that time she had a week off and she came with us for the interview. And the dean at that time was Linda Lillo, and he asked his student worker, said, "Take the college car and drive Brenda around to all the pharmacies in Danville because we want to hire this guy, and that's the way to do it." And that night, when we got together after my interviews and she had been driven around, she said, "Well, I don't know about you, but I've got a job if we move to Danville."
Well, that's great. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Do you have any other good stories from 40 years in teaching? Any particular moments that stand out?
There are so many fun stories from teaching here. The students, that's why people go into teaching. And Center has so many good students over the years. And I found that, a lot, you always want to know where they're from, and there's a lot of good Kentucky kids and kids from, I had a good close connection with several Eastern Kentucky kids. They're Appalachian students like I grew up in Appalachia, and so I had some good connections. But it was funny, over the years, probably by 2010 or so, we were starting to get quite a few Chinese students, and lots of times they were math and economics majors. That was what they did for the most part. And I got to know several Chinese students that still I'm in touch with, and yeah, that was nice. That was broadening for me.
There was a phase where there were a lot of Chinese students coming over directly.
Yes.
Are there as many foreign students on campus now as there were?
There aren't as many as there were, I think.
COVID put a big dent in it.
It did. And I think especially with the Chinese students, it put a big dent in there. But we still have, it's definitely, Center student body is definitely more diverse than it was when I first came. I mean, it was the size. There were only 800 students when I came, and they were all pretty much the same kind of
homogenous.
Pretty homogenous group. And Center's better for that.
So certainly, and their reputation has just expanded too. So it's drawing kids from all over the place too.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Any stories about fellow faculty members you want to share? Milton Riegelman or Bruce Johnson or anybody? We won't tell anybody. This is between you and me.
I would hate to tell too many tales on those folks. There were a lot of very characters in the center faculty. I think of Charlie Campbell in the economics program a long time ago. He was a great guy to know. Mike Hamp, Milton Riegelman was always a strong connection with me. He tried to talk me into going abroad several times. Say, you should take a group abroad. It's Milton. I don't know about that. So, but yeah, there was Bill Sager was one of the best faculty members that I got to know early on. A chemistry professor. When I first started at Center, my office, they hadn't built Olin Hall yet, and so I was in the second floor of Young, which was the same floor with the chemists. And so Preston Miles and Bill Sager and Chuck Gerard, they were all up there. Conrad Sheba was the fourth one that was up there. And I feel like Bill Sager sort of took me under his wing at the start there. And when they built Olin Hall, he was, of course, involved with that. And he said, now, John, here's the office that you want down here on the first floor, all the math offices on the first floor, all the chemistry offices on the second floor. Here's the office you want because it's the only office that is not under a sink in a chemistry lab upstairs. And you do not want to be under a sink in the chemistry lab upstairs because undoubtedly, inevitably, it will overflow at some time, and you'll get water in your office. So
be rained upon at your desk.
And I never did get rained upon. So he steered me correctly. It was nice.
So did you and Preston Miles start about the same time, or did he even predate you?
Preston must have been a couple of years before me. He was there. Now Preston had done something with industry, I think, a little bit before he came to Center. I mean, he was Center. I think he was Center student. Yeah,
I think he was too.
Yeah,
I think he was from Owensboro and went to Center undergrad.
Right, and then I think he got his PhD. I think he worked in industry for a little while before he came back and taught to Center.
Well, it's so nice that Center faculty and Center members of the administration and staff stay long enough to become ingrained, integrated members of the community. So, and I know younger professors often aren't living here in town, and
not as much as they used to be. Yeah.
That some live in Lexington, and some have spouses that work somewhere else.
It's easier to get from Danville to Lexington.
True. That's true.
I mean, when I came, you had to drive straight through Nicholasville and a 2-lane road all the way, and it was not easy to get there.
No, you went right through Main Street until they put the bypass around.
Right.
All right. So the reason specifically that you're on the podcast this week, you have written a book, John Wilson, Squarely Up to You, a puzzle book.
So this book grew out of a course that I was going to teach. So Center term, 3-week term in January, and the students only take one course, the professors only teach one course, and I said I would like to teach a course in what we call recreational mathematics. And recreational mathematics is card tricks that have some math involved and puzzles and
Sudoku. come to mind.
Sudoku.
Thank you.
Yes, Sudokus definitely come to mind. Those are things. But there are cryptograms, and there are lots of things that are considered recreational mathematics. And you have at our professional meetings, there's always a section where people are giving talks in recreational mathematics. And so I wanted to teach a course in that before I retired. And so I guess it was spring of 2022 that I had decided I was going to. I'd been spending time as the faculty president and had a reduced course load, but for my last 2 years, I was going to teach this recreational math class, and I thought one of the things that was going to be in this course was I was going to ask the students to break up into teams and create a puzzle of your own, create a game or a puzzle or a card trick or something of your own. And I thought in the spring before I started teaching that class, I thought, well, I better see just how hard that might be. And so I started trying to think about how to make a puzzle or a game. And I came up with several ideas, and most of them were bad, which is the way you get good stuff.
Right.
You have to come up with bad ideas before you can figure out what's a good idea. And these puzzles, I sort of got figured out. I was starting in the Wordle phase. Mm-hmm. Right, and I wanted to make a puzzle that was sort of like Wordle, except with numbers. And there was a puzzle called Primal, where you had to guess a 5-digit prime number. I didn't really like that, but I was making up different rules for this, and finally decided on something that was really more like a Sudoku puzzle, a small Sudoku puzzle, and it doesn't have any arithmetic or calculus or algebra in it. These are puzzles that you don't have to have any math abilities.
It's almost more logic.
It is logic.
A lot of logic.
It is logic. Those Sudoku puzzles are all logic and set intersections and things like that. And so that was that. Originally the puzzles had an arithmetic phase. I wouldn't give the number. I would give an arithmetic problem, and I tried that out on my friends and family. Tried that out on my students in the first recreational math class, and they could do it, but the feedback on this, right? The feedback. Oh, Dr. Wilson, we don't want to do all that arithmetic before the puzzle here. Just tell us what the numbers are, and we'll have to arrange them. That's hard enough. And that was wise. That was good advice, certainly for a puzzle that might be appealing to a general audience. So comes summer, I'd been making these puzzles, and my son Ben said, he lives down in Tampa. And he said, Dad, you can get this published through Kindle Direct Publishing from Amazon. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. You just write it up and submit it, and it's not like they don't provide editors for it.
Do they almost print them on demand?
They print them on demand.
That's mind blowing.
Yes. There's not a warehouse full of these things. Probably the largest group of them is probably. I've got about 15 at the house, and other than that, there's no warehouse. They just so one of the things to do if you buy a book, you can look and see on the very back page. It'll say where it was published and when it was published. That should be like a September, October edition. I think.
October of 23, Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia, South Carolina is where.
So they have a printing facility down there.
I guess they have printing facilities all over the place.
Also in the back, the solutions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I can cheat. Okay.
There's some hints, some methods to how you do this.
Okay, there's all right.
There's some hints on some people. Some people are a little intimidated that, unlike Sudoku, where you start off with a grid with some numbers in it, these usually start off with no numbers at all, and you just have to look at the intersections and see where the numbers go. So it's a grid with 25 squares in it, and the reason that I chose 25 is because it was square, for one thing, and if you use the digits 1 through 9, if you use, like, you can get, each digit will appear 3 times, and 3 times 8 will be 24, and then one digit, I'll say, just appears one time. I call it the loner.
Okay.
The loner digit is probably the easiest one to figure out because it's in exactly one row and exactly one column, so that tells you exactly where it goes.
So that's kind of a cornerstone. You kind of start.
That's where you get
there.
started.
Okay.
That's where you get started. And then, like the center square, I'll tell you these are the numbers on the third row. These are the numbers on the third column. And these are the numbers on both diagonals. So there are 4 intersections there. The only number that's in all 4 of those lists is the one that goes in the middle. And that's usually a starting point, too.
So there's hope. I have hope that I'll be able to solve one or two.
You will be able to solve these puzzles. And they get a little harder later on. I leave out some information, and you have to deduce the information. But it's all logic, and there's only one solution to each of them. You'll know. When you solve it, you won't have to look in the back of the book and check the answer.
Got it.
Because there's only one way to fill it out.
It's either right or
right.
You're not there.
Yeah.
All right. So is Amazon the only place from where the book can be purchased?
For this one, yeah. Amazon is it.
So
you can go to my website, www. Well, I mean, you don't have to say www, but squarelypuzzle.com.
Okay.
And at the squarelypuzzle.com website, there's Ben, my son, has done a little video demonstrating a little YouTube video how you solve it, and there's some hints, and you can download a little practice, maybe 10 puzzles, just for people to get a sample if they don't want to splurge for the $8.95.
All right, I'll put a link to that website.
Okay, yeah.
Squarely Puzzled.
Squarelypuzzle.com. Yeah, all one big, no gaps. Yeah, .com.
All right, you said that like there might be another book.
Well, surely there would be Squarely Up to You too. I think. I mean, that would be the second book.
Is that in the works currently, or are you taking time off to move?
I have the 120 puzzles. This one has 100 puzzles in it. I have 120 puzzles lined up. I just got to get them formatted and put into a book. That'll be a retirement plan,
after class is over for this semester.
Yeah. It really didn't take all that long for me to get it put together last summer. Ben probably mentioned it to me in June, and the first publishing dates on that are like August 1st. I think there's a July 31st book or something.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
You can go from concept to a book in your hand that fast.
Right. But it's not a novel. But
still.
Yeah. And it's easier to get. It's easier for me to generate the next one and the next one and the next one. I can crank out these puzzles.
Now that you've got the format worked out.
I do. And Ben's done a lot of help with programming some of the stuff to automate some of the stuff. And
do you use computer program to generate some of them?
I do. I use a computer program to modify some of them.
Okay.
Ben's actually done it to generate them, and then once I've got one generated, and know that it has a solution, I have to make sure that there's only one solution to it, and I just solve it to see if that happens. And once we know there's a solution, then I can modify it. I can rotate it around, or I can change the numbers around, and you can get a whole bunch of puzzles out of one, what I call a seed puzzle. And so that's why I say I can crank out bunches of these. Yeah, it works out pretty well. That's what they do with Sudoku too.
Have you been pretty pleased with the sales?
Yeah, for something that it's not our retirement income plan,
but pretty gratifying. Though.
It is very gratifying. Yeah, I've sold in the triple digits.
Well, I'm gratified that people take the time to listen to my podcast, and it's free. So it's neat to produce something that people enjoy.
It will give me something to. It'll give me something to think about in retirement.
All right. So you say your son Ben is in Tampa,
right?
Is he married?
He is married to a girl, Michelle, that he met at Furman when he was in college, and they have a daughter, Sophia, who is just 13 months old.
Okay,
13 months.
So, but you're moving to Brooklyn.
Yes.
I anticipate during especially certain months out of the year, you're going to be spending some time in the Tampa area.
I hope so. I hope so. You know, like I say, if we'd had this conversation last year at this time, I probably would have been saying, yeah, we're going to retire and we'll probably move to Tampa. But all of Michelle's family lives right in the same neighborhood. And Anne, our daughter, made it clear that, Sophia has all kinds of, Ben and Michelle, they've got all kinds of help down there in Tampa. And don't you want to come up here to Brooklyn and live with us we're not living with them, but we're right there, 5-minute walk away.
That, it's going to be a really interesting change of pace living in Brooklyn, where everything is so walkable and it's just so energetic.
We are selling our house. We're selling our cars. We're not taking anything up there. Peeblers is going to move us out and store our furniture until we buy something a year from now. Or who knows? We might find something to buy down in Tampa and then move furniture down there and just go spend some time.
Yeah, just kind of 6 months in one. And possibilities are endless at this point.
The possibilities are, but honestly, Brenda is full-time nanny.
So
and so I think we're going to be doing that. We're very excited and committed to doing that.
Well, I can tell you're excited about it. Your enthusiasm is palpable.
It's fun. It's going to be fun. I get to go up there just for visits right now, but we've had a great time. Yeah, they've been in. Ann and Bryce have been in New York. They were in Manhattan before they were in Brooklyn, and then at COVID times they actually moved out of New York and just were in Airbnbs for a year and a half, and they spent time in Maine. They spent time in Florida. They just whatever they could haul in their car. It was
just working remotely from different.
I've been working remotely. Both of them work remotely, and so it was good. I wouldn't say it was good times, but it was that they survived that COVID years pretty well,
and had a little adventure that wasn't available to everybody at all. The time.
Absolutely not available to people who are in healthcare and people who are in retail and stuff like that. And it's just
actually one of my first podcasts was Chris Martin. I don't know if you've listened to that one, but he was a trumpet player for the New York Symphony Orchestra, and he was here visiting relatives in the area as a COVID refugee, just escaping the big city with his family. And, I think he's back there and everything's dandy. But it seismic change in America. Well, and that's why I started this thing, because I was sitting around the house, and my wife didn't want me to set up a home forge thinking it was going to be too dangerous. So I got into podcasting. So, and here we are.
We're thankful for that.
All right. Well, John, thanks for talking to me. The book is Squarely Up to You. It's available on Amazon directly, right?
Right.
Or on your website, squarelypuzzle.com. All right. I will put a link in the show notes so that people can go directly through instead of trying to.
Okay. That's good.
Any parting thoughts here as you prepare to?
Well, I will say one thing. I will say one thing about, it's not just math. It's not just number puzzles that I like. I like lots of different kinds of puzzles. And so when I was thinking, when you talked to me about being on a podcast, I got to thinking about the word podcast and in particular the word pod. If you spell that out with just type it out lowercase letters, it has the property that if you rotate it 180 degrees, it still spells pod.
That's not an anagram.
No.
It's something.
I don't know what that would be called, and I don't think there are many words that have that property. The P-O-D, the D rotates around 180 degrees and becomes the P. If you write it out, on paper, you'll see.
You spin the paper.
You spin it around, and it spells pod again. So I would challenge your listeners to think of other words that might have that property.
That is a mathematician looks at language right there.
That is. So that's it. I don't know what I'll do in retirement. You know, I've given some thought to podcasting. I was thinking maybe, you know, like Sheldon Cooper on Big Bang Theory had that Fun with Flags. I would have something like Fun with Dates, and because people ask me of things like you know, Pi Day and there could be all kinds of different ways to think about fun with dates,
like dates that are, is it anagrams that run backwards and forwards?
It's what is that called? No, it's not anagrams. It's
you know what I'm talking about, but they're
palindromes.
Palindromes. So certain dates run that way too.
Oh yes. I mean, like a lot of people wanted to get married on the last day of this of last year because the date was 12/31/23, which was 1-2-3-1-2-3.
Right.
And so yeah, there are all kinds of fun with dates. People would send me things. Oh, you know what the day is today, and then they get some date along on it.
But if there isn't, there has to be room for a podcast on puzzles.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is podcasts on puzzles. Yeah. I didn't know if people would get confused about the title of Fun with Dates. It might have other connotations.
They might be thinking of the little fruit.
They could be thinking of fruit
with the pit.
Yeah.
Or dating.
Or dating. I could think, you know, there could be a whole run on Stardate. Stardate. We could have Trekkies there, you know, Stardate.
Oh, that's its own niche right there.
Own niche, and then I could play off that of having maybe Travis and Taylor as the star dates. They could talk about their star dates, and there are all kinds of possibilities.
You're not going to have too much time on your hands while settling in Brooklyn
and taking care of playing with Vaughn, our granddaughter.
Well, she's got to have a nap time sometime. So
anyway, yes. So there's plenty to do, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we wish you all the best as you move forward, move on from these fine pastures. But it sounds like you've got a wonderful, exciting future immediately ahead of you.
Yeah, I feel like all of my major transitions have been good, and there's no reason to think that this one won't be too.
Well, Danville will miss you and Brenda both. So thanks so much for spending time with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, John. My thanks to Dr. John Wilson for joining me on the podcast this week. You can check out his book at squarelypuzzle.com, or you can find it on Amazon. I'm going to put links to that in the show notes. Need to get in touch with me, Logan H. Gurman, the man about Danville himself. Email me, manaboutdanville@gmail.com. My website, manaboutdanville.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter @mandanville. There's a Facebook page. You can follow this podcast on Apple Podcast, iHeart, Spotify. Anywhere you listen to a podcast, you can find me. Take a moment, give me a rating, give me a review, give me a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you can, and feel free to share this podcast with friends and family, home and abroad. Be well, have a good weekend, and thanks for listening.
That's it. We're out. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to Man About Danville wherever you access your favorite podcasts, and be sure to tell your friends about us. You've been listening to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. Know someone who would be a good guest? Want to be a guest yourself? Have an idea for the show? Get in touch with us. Find all our contact information on the web at manaboutdanville.com. Thanks for joining us.